You're listening to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Luis Fernandez. As we get closer to the holiday season, we're thinking not just about festivities, we're also thinking about the temperature, the weather, if you will, which is why we have WRAL meteorologist Amy Wilmoth joining us now. Amy, you all are releasing your winter weather outlook. So excited to see it every single year. I'm sure this year will be a fun one too.
Yeah, I think most people tune in and watch because they want to know about the snow. Are we going to get any snow? And, one of the things that we like to look at is the La Niña or El Niño pattern. Those can tell us kind of how our winter months are going to behave. And this year we are predicted to be in a La Niña. We're in a La Niña now. It's expected to continue through most of the winter. So we have that as background to help us kind of forecast for several months, which is hard to do. We go on past data and what typically happens when we're in this kind of pattern.
Okay, so La Niña, past data. What else do you all kind of look at when you're putting together an entire seasonal outlook?
Well, there are a lot of things you can look at that can kind of get kind of complicated, like the Siberian snow cover. There's a lot of things that we don't typically go in detail about, but I think most of what we base our forecast on is what that La Niña, El Niño pattern is going to be, because there are clear patterns in place when we typically have those different El Niños or La Niñas, and then also past data. So I have a graphic I can kind of cheat and look back at. Looking at snow over the last 75 years, if you look at the past 75 years, we average about 7 inches of snow. Well, if you take that and you look at just the last 5 years, it's under 2.5 inches.
Interesting.
So as we have progressed in time, we're getting less and less snow in the Raleigh area. Now, occasionally we get a nice little snowstorm. Everybody gets happy. They can break the sleds out. But overall, the trends are down. So it's important to look at that. And then some might say, well, why are the trends down fairly dramatically? And that's because we're warming up. We have proof that since 1970, our winter temperatures have warmed nearly 6 degrees.
Wow.
So warmer temperatures will kill a snowfall for us. And you might think 5 degrees, 6 degrees, that's not that much. But the difference between 32 degrees and 34 degrees could mean the difference between a good snow or a cold rain, which is not what most people would want.
I was going to say, I feel like, just anecdotally speaking, most of the time in this area, when we're looking at like potential snowfall, you're like staring at the thermometer. It's like, it feels like it's just, when it happens, it's just barely. We're not, used to seeing these storms where it's in the teens and it's like, yeah, for sure, this is going to happen. It's going to be all this stuff. I want to circle back a little bit to two of those terms you threw out there very early on, right? El Niño and La Niña. For those that don't know what that is, can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so it's interesting, but, we're a world and everything is impacted by everything. And so La Niña, which we're in right now, means we have below normal sea surface temperatures in the equatorial Pacific. So out in the Pacific, there's this particular location that we look at the sea surface temperatures to determine if they're above normal, then we're in an El Niño. If they're below normal, then we're in a La Niña, and that can impact global weather patterns. And for the United States, what it does is it digs this deep trough across the center part of the United States, and the northern part of that trough is typically north of our area. Well, storm systems will follow those troughs. They'll follow the jet stream. And so a lot of times in a La Niña pattern, when we get that big dip in the jet stream, but the activity typically stays north of us. So we'll probably get some really big snows across the Northeast in a pattern like this. For us, everything has to come together absolutely perfectly. And really that's any year, but it's just even harder to do that in a La Niña year. So it's going to be tricky. But you also mentioned that we're always watching the thermometer when we have a storm system come in. Well, something that messes it up for us a lot of times, and people, not everybody knows this, is the Atlantic and the warm sea surface temperatures off the Atlantic. They can come in, we call it a warm nose, come in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, bring us some warm temperatures and kill a snow event for us. So we're not only watching the surface temperature, but we're having to watch the mid-levels to see how cold it's staying, to see if that snow can stay snow all the way down to the surface.
You know, as someone who loves the potential of snow, you're not really painting a great picture here for some wintry precipitation. Let's go ahead and take a quick break there. When we come back, we'll dive into what the actual winter weather outlook is for our area. You're listening to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Luis Fernandez, joined by WRAL meteorologist Amy Wilmoth. And Amy, you all, the meteorological team has put together their winter weather outlook. We've established that forecasting an entire season is a challenge, but here you all are. Lay it on us. What should we expect this year in the Triangle?
Okay, so I want to give some hope to the snow lovers. We were talking about a La Niña and how we don't typically get a lot of snow in a La Niña year. Well, our average snow is about 5 to 6 inches. Last year, we were in a La Niña, and we had 4.8 inches. So there's still hope. It's just it doesn't happen very often in a La Niña. So based on the trends of being in a La Niña during most of the winter, based on the warming of our temperatures, based on seeing that we have seen a dramatic drop in snowfall totals in the last 75 years, you know, it doesn't look great for snow lovers. We're going 1 to 3 inches. Normal is about 5 to 6 inches. So we're going below normal, but we're not saying that we're not going to get any snow at all. And it very well could be possible that we get what we had last year. We had one really good snow event, and folks were able to get out and make snowmen and snow ladies and have fun out in the snow. So there's still hope. It's just it looks like the vast majority of the systems would stay just north of us.
You know, I would much rather have one large storm than a bunch of like traces mixed out over the course of December and January and February and all that stuff. Okay, so that's the frozen precipitation. What about from a temperature perspective? What are we expecting?
So also with the temperatures, you get that deep dip in the trough through the center part of the country. And that puts us on the warm side of things. So it looks like we'll have above normal temperatures overall for the winter months, but we'll certainly get cold snaps. I mean, we've already had some. So we'll get cold snaps, but overall the trend is likely to be above normal.
I think back to some of the earlier months of this year and, how, we had a lot of rain in the summer and then we went on a bit of a drought. We had a really cold August. When you're putting together something like this, does how the year has unfolded so far, does that impact what that looks like?
It does go into our forecasting. So we try to go back and look and see if after a wet summer, perhaps, did that do anything in the winter months? And we haven't been able to really find anything solid to support that. I've also reached out to other partners of ours, the Climate Office in Raleigh, National Weather Service in Raleigh, and there's no clear evidence that we could say, hey, this winter is going to be like this most likely because we had this summer. There's no clear evidence of that, and that's why we typically go back to that El Nino or La Nina pattern where there is that overall trend that we can see.
What's the hardest part about putting something like this together? I imagine it is not, you all work on this for a while. What's so challenging about it?
I think, sometimes we can be at fault for wish casting. There are some on the team that want snow and they love snow and they're like, you sure we shouldn't bump that up to 4 to 6 inches? And, that could be the case, but everybody always looks back at the evidence, and we've never had a problem with the team kind of agreeing on the direction that we should go. Now, if we're in a neutral period, which sometimes happens, so we're not in an El Nino or a La Nina, that can get kind of interesting because it could go either way. That makes it difficult. We do our best, and a lot of times we do a really good job. Sometimes we get a nice little surprise, and, it doesn't go according to plan, but, we're predicting the future for months in advance. It's kind of hard to do, but we do our best with the data that we have.
I just a little reminder, you're predicting the future, just for everyone, making sure people know. And then, you've mentioned a little bit of the precipitation. We've talked about the temperature, but if you, the viewer, a listener, what do you want them to take away from what this forecast in particular does? Is there a nice little kind of like bow you can put on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, something that the team has talked about in the last several years is, we just always like to encourage our viewers to follow somebody that you trust, that you know is in the area. A lot of times people will just post some random model run that's showing 20 inches of snow 2 weeks out. So I would just suggest, find somebody you trust when it comes to winter predictions and winter storms that are headed our way. A lot of time, we've already had several random model runs that have shown a snowstorm for us. Have we had snow yet this season?
We have not. As of when we're recording this on Monday, November 24th. No.
We have not. We have not. So, yeah, that's my big advice to our listeners, our viewers, just to make sure you're getting your information from somebody that you trust and know.
And hey, look at this. Here's someone I know and trust about the forecast, meteorologist Amy Wilmoth and the entire WRAL team. Amy, really appreciate you joining us. You'll have more on this online on WRAL.com, on the WRAL app. And, of course, we'll follow along with you over the course of the entire season and see what winter has in store for us. Amy, thank you.
Sure.